Today, I am going to be giving you the antidote, the solution, the answer to when a customer says, "Oh, I'm just looking," which is so common. Okay, you're going to hear it every single day that you're on the lot selling cars. It is one of the most common phrases that you'll come up against in the industry and in sales in general. But today we are talking about car sales and exactly how to handle it for car salespeople. So stay tuned for that. My name is Anthony. I am an ex general sales manager, finance director, and top salesperson who made $190,000 my first year on the sales floor. And I ran into this a lot and I've overcome it a lot. So I know what I'm talking about, and let's get right into it. Now, you can never accept "I'm just looking." All right. Like I said, it is so common. Almost every single customer will say this when you approach them initially. Not every single one, right? But most of them will. It's just such a common response. It's kind of baked into our social interactions here. So one thing that I want to highlight right off the bat, when someone tells you "I'm just looking," put another way, okay? They're telling you "I'm interested. I am in the market. I am shopping. I'm looking around," right? So why on earth would you let that go? Don't be crazy. Don't be stupid, okay? They're literally giving you a green light and telling you that they're here to check out your inventory. They're interested in your product. "I'm looking at it. I'm just looking at it," okay? So don't give it any power. Don't give it any credence because it's actually a green light, and green means go. All right. And the problem is most salespeople have no idea how to deal with this. In fact, a lot of sales interactions just stop right here because they believe it. They say, "Oh, absolutely. Well, take your time. I'll just be right over here. Come grab me when you're ready." Okay. Terrible response. Oh, it makes me shudder. That's a bad way to handle this objection. And I'm going to tell you why. And here's a hint. It's because it's not actually an objection, but we will get to that in a second. All right. It's actually very easy to move past this. 9 out of 10 times you can get past it in like the blink of an eye, in the snap of a finger. Okay, so that's why you need to train this. That's why you need to pay attention to it, because it actually is an easy problem to solve. I'm going to tell you exactly why. One more reason why to pay attention to this and to really learn how to get around it is because it's not real and you're afraid of something that isn't real. And that's called an irrational fear. Now, you want to be afraid of ghosts? Well, ghosts don't exist, so it's irrational. You want to be afraid of "I'm just looking" and not confront it and engage with it and overcome it? Well, guess what? It's not real. You have an irrational fear of these words if "I'm just looking," okay? But if you validate it, it will become real. So you got to be careful because you can actually solidify this into a serious objection, and you're going to shoot yourself in the foot if you do that. So what is it actually if it's not real? And there's a couple ways we can put this. We can approach it from a few different angles. And I'm going to give you two big ones here. One is the linguistics angle. Okay, so this is kind of the more scientific version, if you will. There's a very interesting term for a phrase like this, right? When someone says, "Oh, hi, how are you doing?" And you say, "I'm fine, thank you." Or, "Hi, welcome in. Can I help you today?" And they say, "Oh, I'm just looking." Okay, those two phrases are actually in the same category linguistically. It's called a phatic expression or a phatic token, which is just a really fancy way of saying that these phrases are used to maintain social comfort rather than to convey any sort of actual information. They're just there so that the glue relationally in society sticks together. It's so that we can communicate with each other like easily and kind of have this cordial, nice, polite interaction without actually telling the truth. When someone says, "I'm fine, thank you," things might not actually be fine for them, but that's just the normal, acceptable, socially correct way to respond to that question. Same thing with "I'm just looking." It is just the easy, comfortable, normal, expected response to someone in a sales environment approaching you. All right. So that's what it is. And there's actually a scientific term for it, which is very interesting. Now, in sales, rather than calling it a phatic expression, okay, we call it a reflex objection or a reactionary response is what I prefer personally. And what this means is that they are just reacting to what you're telling them. right? Same thing as the linguistic version. That's a little bit fancier, but in sales, right? At least the mechanics of this are the same. You say something and they say something back and it just bounces. It doesn't mean anything. Okay. It's fluff. It's dust. You can so safely ignore this because it's not real. And I'm going to keep saying that over and over, but you don't really have to pay attention to it. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that in a second. But before I get there, I want to highlight that there's other phrases that are a little different, but are the same thing. So if someone says, I'm just window shopping, oh, I'm just browsing, I'm just kicking tires, we're just checking what's out there. All of that is the same as I'm just looking. You can treat them all the same way. They're all in the same category of reactionary responses or reflex objections. All right. So how do we actually apply this anti-venom, this antidote to this? Well, your holy grail for all these kinds of reflex objections is going to be acknowledge, ignore. You acknowledge it, you ignore it. Super simple, just a two-step process, and it will evaporate when you approach it like this. So you want to start by just assuming authority. All right. You don't need to ask permission to come help them or to continue the conversation. You just assume authority and you kind of force the conversation to continue by asking them questions, and you continue to ask them questions. All right. So my go-to line, and this is great, this worked every single time for me. Okay. Is I would approach them and say, hi, welcome. My name's Anthony. What's yours? And they would tell me their name. Excellent. Well, what information can I get you today? Oh, I'm just looking. And here comes the secret sauce. Wonderful. I'm so glad that you picked our store to come look around at. Are you looking for a car, truck, or SUV specifically? Okay, I acknowledge it. Thanks for coming to look. And I ignore it. What are you looking for? It kind of begs the question if you think about it. Oh, I'm just looking. Oh, looking for what? That would actually be a pretty great response as well. Although I like to be articulate and particular in terms of how I approach the question so that I prompt a substantive response from them in return. So I want this kind of open-ended question, which is why I prefer this, that, or the other. Car, truck, SUV, because then they have to pick from the list. They have to give me an answer, and then I can expand from there. Now, it's important that you always prompt another response by ending each of your sentences in a question. That will help you remain in control, and it will keep them talking so the conversation remains alive and continues moving forward, and you can continue through the next steps of the sale. So really, this is, this reactionary response comes up in the meet and greet, the very first step of the sale. And you could call it an objection. I'm fine with that, right? So an objection in the greeting, and then we have to move on to the next step of the sale, which is fact finding or discovery, depending on who taught you sales, right? It's known both ways. So we move from greeting to fact finding, and this objection, I'm just looking, comes up in greeting. So we want to maintain control of the situation, overcome it easily, smoothly, and then by using questions, transition and lead into the next step of the sale where we continue asking questions as well, so we can get more information from them and move the process forward. So sometimes, rarely, but sometimes you will get resistance on this. Okay, in 9 out of 10 scenarios, it's going to work out. You're just going to move on. Easy, done, simple. That's it. Okay, but sometimes it's a little bit more real. Okay, and if they mean it, they're just going to repeat it most of the time. All right, so if I say, hi, welcome in. My name's Anthony. What's yours? They give me their name. And I say, what information can I get you? Oh, I'm just looking. Wonderful. Thanks for picking us to come look at. Are you looking for a car, truck, or SUV? And they say, oh, I'm not sure yet. I'm just looking. Okay, so they've repeated the objection. They've dug their heels in a little bit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to dig my heels in a little bit. I'm not going to accept that answer. Same formula as before. Acknowledge, ignore. I totally understand that. So it sounds like you're still in the stage of deciding what kind of vehicle is going to fit your needs the best. I found that a great place to start is seating capacity. Are you going to be carrying passengers often in this vehicle, or is this just going to be for yourself? Okay. So again, I've acknowledged it and I've moved right past it and I've just asked him another question and I just keep narrowing it down. I'm not sure. I'm really just looking around right now. Okay. Now they're really dropping hints. They're really dropping hints to you that they want this to stop. They're saying, all right, leave me alone. Here's the trick. Okay. This is a really easy way to continue the conversation smoothly without making it feel awkward or anything like that, okay? What you need to do is play stupid. Seriously, because it'll work. You got to take everything at its literal face value. If they say a third time, oh, I'm really just looking around right now, don't pretend that they're giving you any social cues to stop. Okay, just accept the literal meaning of the words that came out of their mouth that they told you, which is that, again, they're just looking. They didn't tell you to stop. They just said that they're looking around, okay? So you play stupid, you play ignorant, but you're super polite and you're super friendly. So never assume that you know what's going to happen next, but you follow the same formula. Wonderful. Well, good thing that I'm here to help. Awesome, right? You make a joke out of it and then say, why don't we go take a look at the vehicles outside, and maybe seeing them will help you narrow it down a little bit more. Okay, simple. You don't want to create an objection here. You never assume that you know what's coming next and respond to an objection they haven't given you yet. If they say they're just looking, they haven't told you to stop talking to them. Okay, very different things. Even if they keep saying, I'm just looking, I'm just looking, I'm just looking over and over and over, don't assume that that means stop talking to me. Really, you're gonna create an objection out of thin air if you do that. Even if they mean it, you can still move past it if you just approach this in a way that, like, if you were to read this on paper with no emotion, and your response is kind of like a logical next step to what they're saying. Oh, I'm just looking, and you offer a helpful, kind, polite response. Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad that you picked our store to come look at. I'm right here to help you. Why don't we go outside and take a look at some of the models? You know, maybe seeing the size yourself would help you narrow it down a little bit. And you have that kind of nice, friendly, approachable tone to your voice, and it'll work. Even with the people that really dig their heels in, you can get past it. You want to let them tell you to leave them alone. Okay? They make them use their words to be clear and articulate with you. And, you know, return the favor and be clear and articulate with them. Acknowledge what they're saying, ignore it, and move on and try to help and try to be useful and polite and friendly. Okay? And we're not trying to manipulate anybody here. That's not the point. We're trying to be direct and clear with what we're saying, with what our intentions are. Okay? Because that's what professionals do. They communicate their feelings straightforward in a very direct way. There's none of this like passive aggression going on. Okay? So you are totally right to expect the same thing back from them. You should expect that they communicate clearly what they're thinking, what they're feeling to you. And if they don't, then don't assume. Don't create or address something that isn't there, that hasn't been brought up yet. All right? And that's a very easy way to handle the objection if it gets really hard. Now, like I said, 9 times out of 10, your first pass at this, it's done. It's easy. You're past it. You're moving on. Okay? So that's the real takeaway from this video. I want you to understand and know that I'm just looking is fluff. It's not real. You really don't have to pay attention to it. You're not actually hitting a roadblock. Even though it might seem intimidating, it might feel like they threw up a wall, it's really not there. You just walk right through it. Okay, this is the platform 5 3/4 or whatever. I know I butchered that. You know from Harry Potter where they run the carts straight into the brick wall and go straight through it? That's what I'm just looking is, okay? 100%. You can literally walk right through it 99% of the time, and it will work, and it won't mean a thing, and your interaction will be just as high quality, and you can move forward with the sale very simply. But if you validate it and give it power and make it real, now it becomes a serious brick wall that you will bump into. So don't do that. Just walk right through it and take the advice that I've given in this video and practice it in real life. Now, if you want some help, you want a reference for this, I created something for you guys, which I have right here. And this is a document that I made that covers everything that I talked about in this video. So it explains exactly why you want to pay attention to this. It explains exactly what it is and exactly what to say and do to handle it. Okay, so the 3 important pieces of the puzzle that we covered in the video portion here. And this is something that you should print out, download, and carry into your professional life and use as a resource. I even added an action steps checklist down here at the bottom that you can reference to make sure that you're doing this correctly. If you have any questions, if you're role playing with your coach or with your coworkers, right, use this document. It's available in my free group. Link is in the description. Link is in my bio, depending on what platform you were on. And I just give all these away. I've got a nice little spot where I keep them all archived in case you want to go back and find them like a year from now. This video will still be up. You'll still be able to find this document. I'll keep them up forever. So please join the group, come get some free training, and download this document and use it, and stop listening to I'm just looking, because it's not real. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will catch you in the next one.